So the French have lost their government again. Um, I just wanted to do a quick comparison between what a term of office for a prime minister under the monarchy would be versus what it is now. You see, for example, from 1515 to 1541, so 30 something, 36 years in office, 6 years in office, that's a short term, 10 years, sometimes 20 years, etc., etc. A lot of them, when they end up with a short term, like just 13 years, it's because they died in office.
Right.
You know? And you see this stability and this power that comes from incumbency, because if you've been in office for a long time, you will learn how to manage the ship of state, and you won't be completely at the mercy of silly civil servants. And then you see the introduction of democracy a little bit and more participation for the public, and then the government lasts for a year. And this trend continues, and it continues. And now it seems that nice Mr. Macron is going to have to appoint a seventh prime minister in a matter of 8 years. And I think it's 5 in the last 2 years. I think it's 5 prime ministers in the last 2 years.
It's worse than the era of the 4 emperors, isn't it?
Yeah, which shows you that there is a severe dysfunction within the French state, because nobody understands what is the French state for. Is it there to hold the doors of the borders open and to keep on providing cradle-to-grave welfare? Or does it actually have a function beyond that requires it to, I don't know, maybe worry about the interests of the French people themselves? And you don't see that on display in France. What you see is that there is just complete chaos. They think that the problem is economic. And the Prime Minister, Bayrou, went as far as to say, no, the migrants are not part of the problem. They're not the problem. It's just the debt that's the problem. And admittedly, the debt is a huge problem. The debt to GDP ratio of France is something like 114%, meaning that it's third behind Italy and Greece. And its long-term bonds are trading at yield levels that are, I think, higher than Italy and Greece. So the markets believe that there's a higher possibility of a French default than of an Italian or a Greek default. That's how bad things are for France.
114%.
114%. In Britain, it's 100% or 101%.
I didn't realise it was that bad in Britain, actually.
It's
That's
really
not far behind, actually.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad.
But still, that...
And Spain is somewhere in between, I believe.
Germany's like in the 60s, I think.
Germany's in the high 60s, and they've just...
Which is still terrible. That's still really quite bad.
So 60% used to be the limit for the EU. Just to put all of this in context. If you were going to be a good EU government and be allowed to do things like, join the euro, which will definitely improve your economy. Look at Greece today. You had to have a maximum debt to GDP of 60%. And the French are near double that, and the Italians and the Greeks are past double. And the Spaniards are not far behind. And the British are catching up. And you had to have a maximum budget deficit of 3%. On the assumption that maybe you could achieve growth of 4%. So if the growth is higher than the deficit, then your total debt to GDP ratio is shrinking because the denominator is growing faster than the numerator. So fair enough. Now with France, the budget deficit is around 6%, which is a disaster, especially in peacetime. They're not facing an immediate financial crisis, although one is coming, obviously. They're not falling apart right now. But with 6% debt to GDP, with 6% budget deficit, which tells you how much more you're spending than you're making, and with 114% debt to GDP, it means that if there is an economic crisis, the French government is too broke to do anything about it, other than dramatically cut spending.
Which they can't. Isn't the last 3 governments fallen because
Precisely.
of that. They've tried to reduce spending,
Precisely.
and it can't get done, and the government falls. They bring in a new lefty government to try to do exactly the same thing. It fails. They bring in another one because they won't have anything to do with the National Front or Le Pen, and
Exactly.
just repeat.
So you see the same
Crazy.
pattern happening pretty much everywhere in Europe, where there's a cordon sanitaire being imposed on right-wing parties, on genuine right-wing parties, to say that, no, you're not allowed to participate in government under any conditions. We won't bring you into a coalition. We won't listen to you. We will just close our ears and start screaming rather than listen to what you have to say.
The only country that seems to be an exception to that rule, from what I read on it, seems to be Spain, where the centre-right is giving lip service to being open to working with the Vox party.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But it's not actually happening.
No. Well,
In Germany, that's their favourite trick, isn't it? Whatever happens, everyone else will gang up to prevent AfD from being government. I mean, isn't that what Macron did at the last election, like last year?
Exactly.
I'll let you explain it.
That's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what they've been doing all the time.
Yeah.
So when Macron won against Le Pen in 2017, I think it was, the way that happened was that all of the far left, all of the center right, everybody who wasn't part of RN voted together against Le Pen for Macron, who's a creature of the Rothschild Bank at the end of the day, and doesn't have any real experience in government, and who's married to a pervert. And that's just
Careful, she's very litigious.
whatever. I'm happy to say I'm happy to say that if you're in your 40s or 30s or whatever she was and having relations with a 15-year-old, there's something slightly perverted.
Yep.
So this is who the guy is, and the entire political establishment decided we'd rather have that rather than less immigration and some questions about our relationship with the EU.
genuinely like Mr. Waternoose in Monsters Inc. Just, I'll let 1,000 Frenchmen get stabbed on the street before we let the national rally in. It's just,
Precisely. It's
it's a
exactly
monstrous
that.
position.
It's a horrific position. And they did the same thing again in the last presidential election, when it was again them two. And in the legislative election, the snap legislative election that Macron called for in 2024, so last year as well, everybody banded together to make sure that the RN wouldn't have their man and wouldn't be allowed to get a prime minister. And all of the different parties who were competing for, runoff elections decided we are all going to vote together against RN. And that's how they didn't get a majority in parliament.
I don't know how long they can play that trick for. I don't know how long, or that gambit, let's say. I don't know how many
The
times...
demographics change enough. Until the demographics change enough. I mean, it's pretty transparent. It's pretty transparent that they're sort of biding their time until they feel that this insane experiment is sufficiently irreversible. That seems to be the story.
But the thing that always confuses me about this is that why do they seem to think that they'll still be the ones at the top once it has fully taken hold?
Because they
won't be the ones in
haven't
power.
learned what happened to the leftists after the Islamic Revolution in Iran. It was the leftists who did the street mobilization, they did the strikes, they did the organization, and then they received the executions. Like, they literally all got killed. All of them. So these guys are so committed to hating themselves and hating their country, and so adamant that the purpose of the government of the nation state is not to serve the nation state, that they will go to any lengths to make sure that Marine Le Pen doesn't get into power. And if you look at how diluted Marine Le Pen's positions are compared to her father, then you see that there's simply no reasoning with these guys. Because there are no amount of concessions that you're willing to make that will actually satisfy them.
It's like the leftists here that try and paint Nigel as a fascist or something.
I would fully support the Nigel that is in the left's imagination, with zero preconditions.
It's the same with Le Pen. It's the same with AFD.
It's the same
like
with Trump.
AFD are neo-Nazis. They're really not.
They're
really
by a lesbian
not. Right.
who's in a relationship with a Sri Lankan.
Right.
Like, you're not very neo-Nazi at that stage.
And who supports Israel.
And who supports Israel.
Famous neo-Nazis that support Israel.
Yes. So now there's talk that they will try to impeach Macron, and he's saying that he's absolutely...
Sorry, can I just ask?
Yes.
Who will? Is this... Because as I understand
the agreement on the left and right about this.
I was going to say, my not great understanding, my shallow understanding is that even the centre-left and even some of the far-left are saying that they're done with Macron.
Yes.
So it's nearly everyone, it seems, don't want Macron anymore. And they're blaming him personally.
They are blaming him personally, and the problem is that the far left is actually strong. And I think alone they get something like 26% of the vote.
Under Mélenchon.
Under Mélenchon. And they want more communism. And the prime minister is saying, don't become like Britain, because the Brits tried raising taxes on the rich. And all that did was raise property prices in Milan. And if you looked at it, apparently property prices in Milan have gone up by 49% since 2017, as more and more rich people have moved there, because Meloni decided that she is going to tax foreign income at a flat rate of under 200K. So if you have overshore, like the whole what was it called in Britain, the offshore thing, the overseas non-resident tax, non-dom.
Oh right,
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
If you wanted to be treated like a non-dom, you'd have to pay £200,000, which is peanuts, and then you get to live in Milan. So he's saying, don't make the same mistake and try to tax the rich. And the left is saying, no, how dare you? How dare you?
That's our only plan.
We will not learn from experience. Screw learning from experience. That's for amateurs.
Yeah.
So this seems to be the whole argument of the left, that really what's needed is more government spending. What's needed is more taxation. And this will solve things, even though, and you have to remember this, the French government spends 55% of its GDP. So more than half of the economy is under the control of the French state. 34% of GDP is just welfare payments by the French state. So 1 out of 3 euros that is made in France just gets redistributed to some probably immigrant. Because if you look at the level of education, employment, etc., among the migrant communities, it's atrocious. You had people during last year's riots in France putting up signs saying, please don't smash my windows. I need to pay taxes to give your mother welfare.
Yeah.
And the answer from the left is, how about more taxes? How about more welfare?
How about more foreigners?
How about more foreigners? Exactly. Yeah. So it's an absolutely obscene position.
I was going to say, it's not that much better in Britain, but France seems to be speed running the process even faster than we are. Even faster.
Yes.
They're further down the route and they're going faster.
It's a structural problem across the board where there is no recognition that if you do believe in the nonsense of the social contract, you must at least throw the natives a bone here and there. And the response throughout is absolutely no concessions to the natives at any cost. And the French economy, I mean, if they end up with hyperinflation or a default, which are realistic scenarios when you have this level of debt, already they have the highest G7 unemployment rate. So they're not exactly doing very well. They're higher than their competitors. And they're locked into an enormous amount of spending that keeps on rising. And they don't really seem to have a solution other than more spending, more deficits, more debts, more taxes. Like, that seems to be their only playbook. And the police are saying we're too dysfunctional to stop the boats. And they're mostly too dysfunctional to stop the crime in general. And there are massive no-go areas in Paris. I remember when we were having this debate a few years ago, and the left was saying, no, there's no such thing as a no-go area. You can go there so long as you have a police escort and you're going at high noon. You can drive around. But everybody knows that these things are real. And you see them, you see the most recent humiliation here of basically a bunch of thugs climbing on the
Wesh, wesh, il y a une caméra au-dessus de lui, wesh.
raising Palestinian flags on the statue of Joan of Arc, and generally being their friendly, thuggish selves. And you see that the French state admits that the Muslim Brotherhood has pretty much fully infiltrated the state because of the numbers, not because you can ban a specific organization. It's an ideology first. It comes with the numbers. And 10% of France is Muslim at this stage, which is an insane figure when you think about the history of France. And you see that there is no solution. And it's not obvious to me that there is an electoral solution. Because even with all of this mess, the RN is still at 32%. And the left is at 25%. So with some other allies, they could still end up in control.
They'll just keep locking them out.
They will do everything that they can to keep locking the RN out.
Whilst France burns.
Whilst France burns. And that seems to be the playbook. And it goes back to a fundamental question of what is the purpose of the state? Should it be providing you with childcare and healthcare and pensions, but zero protection for your property or for the safety of your person, while importing an endless horde of people who absolutely hate your guts? Or is the purpose of the organs of the state to serve the people whose land the state is built on? And that's the fundamental philosophical problem. Without a conception that the state is there to serve, the French state is there to serve the French people, and the French people are in fact not Moroccan or Algerian or African or Lebanese, without that conception, none of this is going to be resolved. Fundamentally, there's a philosophical problem over why are we collecting taxes? Why do we have these employees working for the government? Why are these NGOs being funded? What is the purpose of all of this? And the answer seems to be to serve the global good at the expense of the people paying the taxes who have been on this land for 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years. In Beau's case, was it 29,000 years? Something like that?
Oh, Dan, it was Dan.
Dan's case,
It's
sorry.
like a British Aboriginal.
Yeah. Dan's case was
Truly,
29,000 years. So this is the fundamental issue. It's a philosophical question first and foremost. And they're pretending that it's an economic question and it has nothing to do with immigration. Look, guys, enough. Like, just be honest about this, please. Enough.
They can't though. Because they're the same people. It's the same worldview that led to this.
Yes, quite. Quite.
Civic nationalism leads to open borders and leads to
Exactly.
sectarian chaos.
Exactly. Oh, just to add a quick point. They're still funding Ukraine. The French are still funding Ukraine, and they still haven't learned that a big part of the economic crisis in Europe is because they cut themselves off from Russian gas and had the Americans blow up the main pipeline feeding the German economy through Ukrainian hands, whatever, but it was American approved, the blowing up of Nord Stream. And the result of that is Germany deindustrializing. And if the German economy isn't working, no European economy is going to be working. So this isn't just a French crisis or a British crisis. This is a system-wide crisis. And one of the roots of it is complete European subservience to the United States. That's one of the key roots of it. And nobody wants to discuss this. And nobody wants to think clearly about this. Because it goes back to the fundamental question. It is in France's interest to align with Russia because that's always how you've been containing Germany. And that's always been how you contain Germany. You get a Franco-Russian alliance and that keeps the Germans in their place. But you cannot think about that. Why? Because they're all in NATO and they all have to serve the American empire, not their own people.
It's very interesting. I've got an anecdote about that. A while ago here, I interviewed Peter Boehringer of the ADF. He was at least one of the deputy chairman of ADF. And he was
AFD?
AFD, sorry.
Yep.
What did I say?
ADF.
Oh, sorry. And he was doing the rounds, like he did an interview on GB News and stuff. And he was kind enough to come on here and asked him all sorts of questions. And at one point, I asked him about Nord Stream.
Right.
And he literally just sort of said, wait a minute. Can you not ask me that question? I sort of can't answer that question. I don't want to. I'm not in a position to. I can't really. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I'm not trying to embarrass you or catch you out. So we'll just move on. Absolutely fine by me. And he did the same thing, though, for when I talked about American bases. Like, how do you feel about having loads of American bases still after World War II peppered throughout your country? And he's like, I can't talk. But that speaks volumes, doesn't it? That really does speak volumes about the hegemony still of the United States.
This is what castrated people sound like.
There's not loads of US bases in Britain. There are.
Exactly.
But at least at least I could talk about it.
Yeah.
At least I'm at liberty to speculate who blew up that pipeline.
Yep.
Or I'm free to say, wouldn't it be better if there weren't US Air Force bases peppered all over Britain? I'd like it if there weren't, actually.
Yep.
I don't feel terrified in posing the question.
Yep.
No, but it's a good point. People don't really bring up that point very often, but that is true. It's true.
It's a fundamental part of reality that Europe has surrendered its sovereignty. And part of surrendering Europe's sovereignty entails pretending that Europe is the United States and is therefore a land of immigrants. Now, the revolutionary thing about the United States was that it was a land for European immigrants, and that was understood by a lot of the founders, all of the founders, arguably. And now the pretense is that no is for anyone from anywhere, including Hindus, including Buddhists, including Confucians, including Muslims, including whoever. But before that, it was understood that it was actually about white Christians. And that was not even controversial.
No, and what's more, it's obvious idiocy to think that it was the founding fathers did have in mind that it would become basically a place for all people of the world.
Yes.
These founding fathers who we never hear the end of how racist they were, and yet somehow they simultaneously wanted it to be a place for all people and all faiths and all.
There's no coherence to their thinking.
No.
There's no coherence to leftist thinking.
It's just that stupid plaque that somebody, after the fact, put on the Statue of Liberty thing, wasn't it? So
Yes.
bring me all your huddled masses or whatever. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
No, that's a much more modern concept. Well, the idea of critical theory and critical race theory and all that stuff, it's not that old. You look back at histories by someone like Winston Churchill or Sir Charles Omer, 20th century, first half of the 20th century, they're just openly talking about race,
Yes.
the white race here or there.
Yes.
Because
and the differences between groups of people, and the fact different groups and that belief systems matter. Churchill's views on Islam, quite famous. So it's just complete separation from reality. Shall we go through a couple of comments?
Oh, sure, by all means.
Sure. Let me see. Regardless of what's popular, we, the USA, are unapologetically and totally on your side as English citizens. My heritage is English and mostly Viking. I wish and hope you will fight like you did against the Viking invaders. Yeah, thank you for that. And that's from Magnum Norse for $50. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
From Val Politics for £20, you'd think with such bleak economic prospects, nations would push their own natives to have children, since that justifies investing in the foundations of long-term GDP growth. Precisely. The economy is shrinking because the country is. Absolutely. And the idea that somebody from Morocco, I mean, have you been to the sort of rural parts of Morocco where pretty much 40% is illiterate? The idea that they will just become wonderful French citizens is just laughable. Squoblat for £5. We all know the solution. Nobody wants to say it. Mass remigration. Juan de Ribera knew it 400 years ago. I'm assuming that would be Reconquista. How about we stop allowing this nonsense? I'm in North Carolina. Also Magnum Norse. Thank you very much for that. Brother Doom for $4.99. I'm an American and I'd also prefer not having military bases all over Britain or Germany for that matter. I'd like to send the troops home. Well, yes, because for the Americans, and this is no part an attack on American citizens, at no point at all, but the fact that the American government prioritizes the empire comes at the expense of American citizens. And so nothing that I said should be construed as being, against Americans.
No, it's not about the people. It's a critique of
not at all.
states.
Not at all. It's just that if they prioritize their empire, neither European citizens nor Europeans in the United States will be a priority. And that's the objective reality of it.
That's a good point. I would like to make a distinction again between the average person in Nebraska and the planners at the Pentagon.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They're not the same.
The planners at the Pentagon are usually a lot more sane because they might get shot. The most awful people are the people in the State Department. And I've met some of them, and they're all morons.
Who are the men that pick for scraps amongst the ruins at the end of history? You should know, because you encounter them every day. Between the towering buildings of a fallen empire, we find the Fellaheen, the historyless men, who know nothing of the turning of the cosmic wheel and find themselves outside of civilization itself. Cut loose from the great chain of being, they represent the loam into which our dying culture will return. That is, unless we choose to take up the burden once again. This Fellaheen condition is the subject we explore in issue 4 of Islander magazine, on sale while stocks last and available worldwide at shop.lotuseaters.com.